I'd like to call up next our pharmacologist, Dr. Craig Leivent. Craig, come on up. So Craig also entered our orbit very early on in this process, and grateful for his participation in some of our online events that we've done up until now, and you may have seen him, and now you get to see him up close and personal. So Craig, thank you for being here. We really do appreciate. So, you know, when we think about pharmaceuticals, right, we think about the pill bottles and things that we can get at the local pharmacy. So talk to us about how cannabis as a pharmaceutical can be a part of our health regimen.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, even with this inclement weather. Cannabis as a pharmaceutical, it's two-edged pronged. So right now we have 3 approved cannabis-based products in this country and a 4th in Europe and the rest of the world. We have 3 products in the U.S. and 1 other throughout the world that's not approved in the U.S., which is Sativex, which is actually a THC-based product by GW Pharmaceuticals, which also produces Epidiolex, which is the CBD isolate that is now on the market. And then there is dronabinol, which is Marinol. It's been out for like the last almost 40 years now. And Nabilone, which is a synthetic type. It's almost like THC. It's not really like THC. That's used. Both of those used for nausea and vomiting, but it's a synthetic cannabis. And cannabis itself can be used as an adjunct for pharmaceuticals that you're on. There are no. I can't say that it can be used by itself for other conditions, but it is being studied with opiates right now is a combination product to decrease the amount of opiate you would need for acute pain, and also with the withdrawals that you would experience from the opiate. So acute pain is not really a product for cannabis right now, more so chronic pain that you would have from injuries or some birth defects that are very common. Then we would have like you'd have your seizures, which CBD is known to, you know, it's been isolated for itself for certain seizure conditions. Parkinson's, you'd have tremors, which is, cannabis is known to decrease tremors. So there's another large population and growing study that's needed. Alzheimer's. Studies have been shown that it actually might demyelinate the plaques that form Alzheimer's in the brain, which is just amazing to reverse the process. You have muscular sclerosis or MS, and where you take opiates and Lyrica and gabapentin, we have these side effects where if you can consume cannabis in certain ways, you wouldn't really have those side effects. You have what else? PTSD, PMS even, endometriosis. There's a myriad of conditions cannabis really can be used for.
And a lot of these conditions are being discovered all the time that they do address. So break down the plant a little bit for us. We talk about cannabinoids, right? The components within the plant, but let's not confuse them, because you know we have you know, a component that is psychoactive, right, that gets you high, THC, but the other component that we were talking about is non-psychoactive, and a lot of people don't understand that. So explain that a little bit.
Well, the CBD. It's considered non-psychoactive, but there might be some psychoactivity because it does slightly alter your mood. So anything that alters your mood and your state of being can be considered psychoactive. It's not going to get you high like THC will. But specifically cannabinoids, so there's 120 plus cannabinoids in the cannabis plant, and we actually have which are phytocannabinoids, they're from a plant. But we have endocannabinoids in our own system, 2-AG and anandamide, which is the bliss molecule, which works on the same receptors as THC, which gets you high. So you have a chemical in our body that we naturally produce that works on a system that we have in our body called the endocannabinoid system. So we have this system in our body that goes all throughout our system, reaches further than any nerve in our body.
But this is a newly discovered system, right?
It was discovered in the mid-'80s. They're still not teaching it in medical school. My students that I get on rotation still aren't taught it. They have one class of it in LIU. My St. John students, they don't talk about it at all because it's a Catholic university. So it's not even spoken about, and it really should be. So we have an endocannabinoid system. We don't have a Prozac system or a Xanax system. We have an actual system in our body that works on these particular chemicals and structures.
That's right.
So we're just really retapping into it, which we've lost. Also, it wasn't just because of racism, it was because of big business also.
Yeah.
And
Nylon,
they said
right?
those terms just to get over on society because people wanted to make money and everyone just listens to what's in the media and doesn't dig deeper. So it's not only racism, it was big business that's still in place in a lot of places today that stopped it.
And what we don't understand is that, before 1937, before Prohibition, this grew wild, right? Hemp grew on the side of the road.
I mean, so his pastor said, he spoke to his pastor. I spoke to my rabbi, and my rabbi said, do you know what the Torah was written on? And I said, yes, it was written on hemp. And he said, correct. So if you had hemp 2,000 plus years ago, and then he went one further. He's like, Jesus. I'm like, Jesus? He goes, yes, Jesus supposedly had his oil. And that oil was made with 9 pounds of cannabibum. They didn't say cannabis, but it was 9 pounds of cannabis in this sacred oil. I mean, no, so this was being consumed and utilized, and we're just now tapping back into it. We've lost 100 years of scientific research, a scientific explosion that happened over this last 100 years. We have all these synthetic chemicals, all these things. We use, I have a degree in botany besides being a doctor in pharmacology. So we have all these plants that we initially were utilizing, and then we synthesized out all these chemicals and multiple chemicals because every company wanted to make their own money, their own profit. So they modified each chemical. So now you have chemicals that really aren't anywhere related to what they initially started with. You have multiple side effects, and you're creating more conditions than possibly you can be helping or healing. So it's a real double-edged sword. So, I mean, cannabis can really be utilized. I mean, okay, I'm not knocking medicine. Ever since man made medicine, we've only extended our lifespan. Only. We're increasing. But that quality of life is so important. When you have your grandma who's 90 years old and really, can't get up or her memory is what it used to be, or she's shaking, and then you see her consume a little cannabis and things are changing. What happens if that was consumed 30 years earlier? Or 50 years earlier? She was incorporated. It's a superfood. The THCA, you said THC? So THCA is the acid form. It's non-psychoactive like CBD, but the antioxidants, the anti-inflammatory parts of it, they're off the charts. More than vitamin C, more than vitamin E, the antioxidants. It's just amazing, this plant that we're not able to consume because of our government. If we should be having it in our salads. Not blending it, not...
That's right. Now, just to be clear, and I don't know if you have this statistic off the top of your head, but how many people in 2018 actually died from cannabis?
That's a real tough one. How many people died from unicorns last year?
I don't think any.
Okay, that's it.
So zero.
So there's really no one's died from cannabis. The only one I think that's died from cannabis was this person in Arizona. His friend dropped 3 tons of cannabis off the roof and it hit him on the head.
And killed him.
So that was it.
Yeah, but actually 100 people die from acetaminophen, Tylenol, each year.
Yeah.
100 deaths
It might
each
even
year.
be more because
Yeah.
there are so many people that consume acetaminophen that it's just part of their regime that it might even be overlooked. That's just one chemical that people are consuming.
So as we wrap up, this question comes up all the time. If someone uses CBD, will they pass a drug test?
Okay, there's another two-pronged point. So
Okay.
CBD isolate itself. So if you isolate CBD out of the cannabinoid, all of the different 120 plus cannabinoids, you'll get just CBD. So CBD itself, if it's an isolate, will not get the metabolite 11 nor tetrahydrocannabinol. That's what they're testing for. That's the urine test. So that's the chemical they're looking for. So if you take pure CBD, you're not going to metabolize to that chemical. But, so you have the whole industry now that has the 0.3% THC in it. So if it's 0.3% THC and you're taking 100 milligrams total of CBD a day, okay. If it's less than 0.3, okay, great. But if you're taking 1,000 plus milligrams of CBD a day, you're going to have 3 milligrams of THC in your bloodstream that people don't realize. So you now have 3 milligrams of THC. So now that urinal assay can now be positive. So but still, I haven't seen it, I haven't heard about it, but there is that possibility. So that's the biggest thing right now is the combination. And another thing with there's a lot of, just wanted to point this out. There's a lot of CBD flower out there, and the CBD flower they say it has to be less than 0.3% THC. But you have to look at the THCA chemical, because the acid form gets converted to THC when you heat it. So if it says 12% THCA and you're buying a cannabinoid flower that you want to consume, you're converting to 12% THC once you ignite it. So you have to be very careful with that. And that's just, one thing that I just want everyone to look at, because it's out there. It's in we can buy it at the gas station. So I just want everyone to know that. I mean, I get drug tested, monthly, so I really need to, you just need to know these things. And it should be in part of your daily routine when you're consuming CBD or looking for it. So CBD itself, no, you cannot fail a drug test. A broad spectrum product that has 0.3% THC in it, possibly. I haven't heard it happen yet, but it's possible.
Okay, great. Well, great information. Craig, thank you so much for
Thank you, everyone.
that. And again,